Why don't we see top receivers on those three powerhouse teams?
Because the three teams are led by dudes at quarterback. Talking about Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, and Lamar Jackson. And when you have guys that are essentially, you can drop them into any franchise and make them viable Super Bowl contenders. These quarterbacks that we're speaking of, these are the quarterbacks that elevate everyone around them. And so when you talk about positions like the wide receiver position that's so dependent on other factors going on around them, you don't necessarily need a star wide receiver when you have such star quarterbacks at their respective teams.
Mike Shannon, now when you look at this list, all these guys who've just gotten contracts are some of the highest paid players in the league outside of quarterback. What's the more valuable position to you, wide receiver or corner?
Yeah, it's definitely corner, sorry.
Definitely.
Yeah,
I agree with you.
Yeah, it goes back to the old Coach Parcells saying, which is when you're building a team in the NFL, you are taking what's being put out on Saturday, meaning college football. When you look at college football guys over the last several years, it's more 3 and 4 wide receivers. Therefore, there's more supply at that position. It's harder to find defenders like we just saw, for example, Sauce Gardner get signed. That's why their value will continue to go up. And a microcosm of this conversation, guys, is look at the Chiefs, what they did, right? They traded Tyreek Hill, they invested on their defense, and the rest is history. But when you can get a guy like a TJ Watt there, other pass rushers, it impacts the game, Chris Jones, and those guys are just harder to find. And when you look at Kansas City, for example, they went out and got the Hollywood Browns of the world at somewhat discount price. Rasheed Rice, Xavier Worthy was a late first round pick.
Hopkins late last year, they brought him in.
Right, and they said, look, we're going to pay, as you said, the dude of all dudes, Patrick Mahomes, and then invest in the defense, and then it's more cost effective to go volume, when you're looking at receiver, just because there's so many guys coming out each year.
And yet the money is so much for wide receiver when compared to corner. These wide receivers make nearly $10 million more than the top corners. Ross, are we overvaluing wide receivers?
It's a good question that I think a lot of teams are asking themselves these days around the league. There are teams, there are front offices that would tell you, no way am I paying $30+ million for a wide receiver. 8 new ones come out in the draft every single year, but there obviously are teams that are doing it as well. And it's worth noting that there were only 2 teams last year that had multiple wide receivers making north of $25 million a year, and one of those teams won the Super Bowl. So there's many different ways to do it. The Eagles obviously got high-level production from young guys on rookie contracts on the defensive side of the ball. So if you're the Chiefs and you have to pay a defensive tackle and you have to pay a tight end and you're doing all these things, you have to pay your guards at the top of the market, then you need to find cheaper solutions at wide receiver, and that's what they've been trying to do.
All right, we saw that list, and I think it's interesting because it's a lot of the same names as last year. Who's the next guy that we're going to be talking about as one of those dudes?
I think if you're looking at a guy who could Baltimore, maybe have the opportunity in the top 5, Nico Collins. I think Nico Collins in Houston has an opportunity for a couple of reasons. I think number one, just the chemistry that he has with C.J. Stroud. But listen, he was dealing with some injuries last year, but when Nico Collins is healthy, there's not many receivers out there that's more of a big play guy than Nico Collins. And another aspect of it is when you look at what's around Nico Collins, think about this: Tank Dell is going to be out, for a significant period of time. It's going to be Nico Collins plus whoever else. So he's going to have the volume and everything go his way in order to catapult himself possibly in that top 5.
You see on that list right there, number 7 is Malik Neighbors. The Giants rookies reported to camp yesterday. Giants legend Eli Manning joined us on the show, and he's talked about the quarterback situation in New York. Take a listen.
I think they're handling this situation the right way. Hey, Russell Wilson's the guy. He's a veteran. Come learn from Russell. Let him kind of show the way, and then let Jaxson kind of just get his feet wet, figure out what the system is, how to, kind of just handle everything that you have to do around New York. And when his time's ready, make sure he's ready to go out there and play at a high level.
Mike Shannon, the morning after the draft, we were together in Green Bay, and you were banging the table that Jaxson Dart should start right away. Do you still agree, or are you listening to Eli saying, hey, let Russell do it as long as he can, and then you go to Dart?
Yeah, I hate disagreeing with a legend in Eli, but I would have given his playbook in Green Bay, saying, you're our starter, and I would have sit down and just bring you behind the curtain. I thought Rex Ryan, when we were at the Jets in 09 with Mark Sanchez, did a great job working with Brian Schottenheimer to say, let's design a program and a system to put Mark Sanchez and our entire team, Wood, in a position to be successful. Likewise with Jaxson Dart, we don't have to give him the whole playbook. We can be successful. We're going to have this great defensive line. We have guys like Malik Neighbors. You had Jalen Hyatt as one of your most improved players, Peter. And we can make Jaxson Dart successful in September. Let's not have any of these limiting factors like he doesn't know the system yet. Let's throw him in the deep end. We're going to get better with Jaxson Dart. The more he plays early, the better he'll be late. And then we're going to move forward, and that's the narrative of our organization. Russell Wilson, great career. You're a bridge quarterback, and I would not look back.
When you put that responsibility on Sanchez's shoulders, how did he respond? Did he elevate his game? And because as a rookie, you're coming in, the world's spinning.
Yeah, look, we didn't really ask him to elevate his game. We basically don't screw it up because we got an overpaid offensive line that was actually pretty good. And we could run the ball, and we had a great defense. And because of that, we were able to win a lot of games. And Mark got better as the season went on. And I think likewise, that's what the Giants should do.
Do you agree with
That he was overpaid?
I always say I have a wing with Mike Tannenbaum in the house. Listen, I think there's a happy medium here. I've always said, like, you put someone out there when they're ready. And I think in this situation, and time will tell in training camp. Remember, like, we're making all these, trying to make all these guesstimations when they haven't even strapped up the badge yet. Training camp is going to tell a big story. If he goes out there in training camp like a la, what if he goes out there like Russell Wilson in training camp and plays that? Then you know what? Throw him out there. Like, let him go. But what if he's not? What if he's not there? What if he has those growing pains as a rookie? Like, you have to be very careful at the quarterback position not to crush a young man's psyche early on. So when he shows that he's ready, you put him out there, and then you don't look back.
I think that's the critical point here. It's about the player in this situation more than it's about the team. You have to manage Jaxson Dart correctly. You have to identify what kind of person he is in terms of what he can handle. Sean Payton throws Bo Nix in the deep end right away last year. It looked pretty ugly in September. But Bo Nix started 6 years in college. They felt like he could handle that the negativity wouldn't compound and wreck his development. I talked to Broncos players last year at a couple of their games, and they said, some of the veterans would like go up to Bo Nix in September like, hey man, just stick with what you're doing, it'll be okay. And his reaction was basically like, look, I appreciate what you're trying to do, but I'm good. Like, I can handle it. If Jaxson Dart gives you that vibe, then I think playing him early makes a lot of sense. If you're concerned about the negativity compounding up, right? I mean, so I think that's what they have to identify what kind of guy he is and use that to figure out when he's ready.
Dan, you're asking the right question, and that should be answered in the pre-draft process, which is, can this guy handle New York? Can he handle from starting day one? You have 6 months to answer that question, and that's the right question to ask. And if you run the right process, you know the answer.
Giants rookies are.
Ngọc Son, các bạn sẽ lật sang phần đằng sau cho mình. Bây giờ mình sẽ gập phần bên dưới này của nó lên phần bên trên này nhé. Đó, mình sẽ gấp nó lên cái phần ở bên trên này nhé. Bây giờ mình sẽ dở phần này ra.